We have one of my favorite callers, John from Canada, him.
John.
And he says Charlie Kirk does not deserve all the bad press he's getting. So, hi, John. How you doing?
Kelly, how are you, man?
Good. How are you, man? I'm doing all right.
Excellent. Happy to hear that. And how are you, cross-examiner?
I'm doing well, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Okay, let's get to it. As you know, 2 days ago, the conservative commentator Charlie Kirk was tragically, viciously gunned down, and it's a tragedy. My heart goes out to his wife, his children, everyone who cared about him. But
to any victim of gun violence and their families, my heart goes out to.
Yep.
Good. Excellent. But what's really sticking in me is that you have people who are out there who are saying that he deserved it. And instead of saying, like, it's a tragedy, they're talking about his politics, which has no place in this scenario.
Does it? Because I'll ask two questions of you. I just want to clarify, because you said two things there. One, you said there are people out there saying he deserves it. And that's a separate statement from there are people talking about his political stances. So I want to clarify what you're objecting to. To be clear, as far as I know, I personally, everybody I've spoke to at the ACA and the ACA's, certainly their stance is there is no place for violence in the world, much less in political discourse. Political change through violence is abhorrent and gruesome and horrific. So I don't know anybody in my personal set of friends who are saying he deserves it. Now, I'm sure the internet being the internet, there are people saying that, but I would immediately block those people on my social media platforms, and I would ignore them as unserious people. So can we agree that nobody on this call, and I assume Kelly would agree, nobody here is saying that Charlie Kirk deserved to be shot? Can we all agree on that?
Yes, we can.
I'll agree with that.
Okay. So is your objection simply that now is not the time to talk about his political stance?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, he just said there's no room for violence in the political course or in the world. And we all have to unite here, because if Charlie Kirk kills anyone who speaks...
Whoa. You made a big jump right there. So I asked you why now is not the time to talk about his political stances without getting into politics on the show. We're talking in the abstract here. And you said, because now is not the time. You sort of repeated, and then you said, we have to unite. I'm going to object to that. First, by definitionally, I don't know what you mean. And second, I don't think anybody has to unite over anything. But what do you mean we have to unite?
I meant as a species. We're all one people.
Okay.
We should all be grieving. Now it's not a time.
Should we?
I don't know that we should all be grieving, John, but I think as humans, as a good human being, we can all condemn what happened. But I don't think that everybody needs to be grieving. It's like if I don't care for a person for whatever reason, that I don't care for that person, and that person does have bad luck, something bad happens to them, in this case, a death, it doesn't mean that even though I can condemn the violence, I can say that person doesn't deserve to have that happen to them. It still doesn't mean I can be apathetic about how I feel about them having to suffer from this. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like if I don't know Charlie Kirk. I don't agree with Charlie Kirk. I actually have very opposite opinions of some of the things that Charlie Kirk says. So when Charlie Kirk gets hurt, I can condemn the fact that he was hurt, but I don't really care that he got hurt. Do you know what I mean? Okay. I care about how he was hurt, but not that he was hurt.
Yeah, to clarify, this is sort of like the question of guilty, not guilty, innocent, right? I don't have to actively mourn somebody that I disagree with, but that doesn't mean that I actively wanted them to die. I can be indifferent. my heart goes out to his family. My heart goes out to his loved ones. My heart goes out to the world and this country that we are in this state. But it doesn't mean that I can't be apathetic about the individual, right? Like millions, 10,000 kids starve to death every single day on this planet. I am more upset about that than I am about one politician in the United States being killed from a just individual case perspective. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm not asking you to put your lives on hold for him, but at the very least, the people should say, this is a tragedy.
We said that.
Yeah,
so
we
what you
agree with
said is that we
John.
must unite and that we should mourn him. And that's, I think, where we're disagreeing.
Right. Like as cross-examiner said, the fact that all these children are dying actually has a way bigger impact on me than Charlie Kirk does.
But he was a human being. It should be the same.
Yeah, no, well, not necessarily. I mean, if, you know, like, do you care about some guy who lives in Saskatchewan that you never met before when he died? No, you don't. I mean, you're apathetic.
Not equally,
that.
At least.
You know, you're apathetic toward that, and I just had that same feeling towards Charlie. I just, you know, I condemn what happened to him. I don't think he deserved what happened to him, but Charlie Kirk himself, I don't really care about. I really don't care about him. I care about the action. I care about the outcome of the action. I condemn both those things. I don't think they should happen to anyone. But I don't really care specifically for one particular person.
Let me ask you this, John. When is the appropriate time to reflect upon Charlie Kirk's political stance?
Okay. We should at least give it a year.
Whoa! Wow,
that's quite a while.
Wow, that I would have given you maybe 24 hours is something I would have thought about. Maybe, like, people might say, a week, but we can't talk about Charlie Kirk's politics for a year after he's dead?
You
sure that's what you meant?
Right now.
Is that the rule for everybody? Like, if your neighbor dies, we can't talk about their politics for a year. If any sort of, like, for example, we had what was her name?
Hortman.
Hortman, thank you, in Minnesota or
I was
Wisconsin.
I was going to bring
she
her up
died,
next.
we can't talk about her politics for a year when she was assassinated. Why is this? Why can't we reflect upon somebody's politics after they've died for a year? What's the justification?
Okay. We could talk about his politics if it was equal. Because he's a conservative, people are turning bad on him. I guarantee you, if he was liberal, people would be saying he was a wonderful person, he was brave, he was killed.
Well, I would think that liberals would be saying that, just like conservatives are saying that right now. But I don't think conservatives would be saying that. I think that the people who would follow him and agree with him would be saying that. I don't think it would be like everybody just because he was a liberal. That doesn't make any sense at all. Does it really? Do you think?
Yes, that's exactly what is happening. It's a double standard.
Well, sure. No, it's not a double standard at all, John. It's the standard. People agree with the people that think the same way they do. So because Charlie Kirk was a conservative, conservatives are grieving him more than a liberal would. If Charlie Kirk had been a liberal, you're right, liberals would be grieving him more, but conservatives would not be, because he doesn't fit their frame of mind, just like he doesn't fit the liberals' frame of mind right now. And I just want to point out that the person who did this, that I don't want to say did do it, that allegedly did this, is allegedly a conservative, was a Trump supporter.
Yeah, and
I don't know how to frame that in your point of view now. So
yeah, I think that we should realize that there is this race to sort of point at like, okay, the shooter was this, the shooter was that. And I think we can all agree the shooter was unstable to do this, right? Your claim that there is a double standard amongst somebody somewhere, the media or whoever the usual suspects are, about what's proper and how people condemn each other after these events and all this stuff is an utter false narrative. The conservative Christian movement loves this persecution complex they have to say, oh, well, we can't say bad things. All the bad things we say about liberals we're condemned about, but then you guys say bad things about these people, et cetera, which is not even what we're talking about. We're talking about not talking about Charlie Kirk, the person. We're talking about his politics. But if you want to go on the record, we've had Melissa Hortman assassinated. Trump remained silent about that. We had Josh Shapiro was targeted, the Democratic governor. Trump remained silent about that. I shouldn't say Trump. The conservatives, that was a slip of the tongue. All the people that wanted to hang Mike Pence, the conservatives were fine with that and pardoned them. All the people, the liberal judge had her son executed by a conservative. Nobody said anything about that on the right. We had, during the Obama period, we had the guy from Florida sending pipe bombs to the White House. Nobody on the right said anything about that. We had Nancy Pelosi's husband's nearly murdered, and Charlie Kirk says a patriot should bail that man out, and nobody said anything about this. It goes on and on and on. So don't give me this false double standard narrative. It is horrific on both sides to attack the person and to say, like Charlie Kirk did, that, hey, we should bail out somebody who nearly murdered a politician's husband, but instead we should revere him when he dies, that, A, we must come together, that we can't talk about his politics for a year, and that we must unite in mourning him. That's a double standard, if there's anything. So I'm sorry I sort of got a little hot under the collar there, and but if you're going to bring this information to bear, you better be ready to recognize that humans as a whole tend to run to their corners when this sort of shit happens in a useless way and start pointing fingers at each other instead of really trying to solve the problem, which is we're in a state now where political violence is becoming more and more normal. And that is because on many sides, there is amped up rhetoric and increased threats to people's very being. And that is an unfortunate state of affairs. And if anybody, including Charlie Kirk, contributes to that atmosphere, we should be allowed to talk about that. And whether or not we cared about the person, we should be able to talk about his politics. Put another way, are people who like Charlie Kirk allowed to talk about his politics for a year after he dies?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So there's your double standard. I can't hear you, Kelly, by the way. I'm not sure if I'm doing all right here.
No, that was my bad.
Okay.
I muted my mic because I coughed. That was my bad. I was totally wrong again. Well, I got a really good double standard in this particular case, though. You're asking us to have empathy for somebody who said that empathy didn't exist.
That's true. That's true. Empathy is a made-up New Age word.
You guys do realize right now you're laughing about a dead man, right? You know how?
No, we're laughing about the double standard. We're not laughing at Charlie Kirk. We're laughing at the double standard, John. We're laughing at the fact that people, and it's not just you, it's many people that believe what you believe, and you have the right to believe that. I don't have any problem with that. Yeah. But many people that are on your side are calling for the people who don't like Charlie Kirk to have empathy for Charlie Kirk when Charlie Kirk said that empathy didn't exist. That's what I'm laughing at. It had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk himself. We were laughing at the double standard.
Excellent point.
Well, don't you realize that the freedom of speech can be at risk now? Because if a man like Charlie Kirk can speak in public,
I don't know how. How can freedom of speech be at risk now?
Define freedom of speech.
Okay, and he's dead. Being able to say what you want to say without fear of being killed, like Mr. Kirk was. The whole point
That's not freedom of speech
That's
the way
not
that
freedom of speech,
99.99% of the people use that phrase. So I suggest you rephrase it and don't use freedom of speech as a shorthand for that, because freedom of speech means, on the common parlance and in every possible way in public discourse, it means the government cannot control your speech. It can't compel you to take a position or to speak, and it cannot suppress your speech in a unconstitutional way, at least here in the United States. And other governments have made, interestingly, different decisions from a legal perspective and from a public policy perspective because of what you're expressing a concern about. Many other countries, in fact, most other countries, do not have the freedom of speech that we have in the US, exactly because of the political violence that we're seeing here in the United States. I'm not talking just about Charlie Kirk, but they recognize that hurtful speech is something that can get people very angry and can also harm people psychologically. For example, if you're in the UK, most people view it as sort of like a sister country, everything's fine. If you go over there and use a racial slur, you can end up in jail, convicted of a crime, and stay there for months. That would be crazy here in the United States. So that is what we mean by freedom of speech. The government cannot come in and control you. What you're talking about is, I'm worried that we have such access to guns and such low mental health care in this country, and people are so stressed out in their lives about what's going on in this country right now, that controversial figures will get shot. That's what you're worried about. It's not freedom of speech. It's we're on a powder keg, and people who are controversial are going to be easy targets. Does that make sense?
Well, it's not it does make sense, but it's not the guns that are the problem. It's the people who are the problem, like you just said.
Let's not get into the gun control problem. It is one factor, okay? It is absolutely one factor. You can have the same societies around the world, and the deaths per gun per capita again, are insanely low compared to the United States. So one element, if you can't even admit that one element of the gun violence in America has to do with the prevalence of guns in America, I can't take you seriously. I didn't say it was the only thing. I listed a whole bunch of things, and you jumped on guns as if that's the really important part here. The important part is it's a powder keg. There's political violence, and people are scared of speaking out in a controversial way. And we have to address that as a country.
Well,
what's your proposed solution?
That people can't speak.
I think
what's your proposed solution? I agree, it's a problem. We don't want to live like this. This is not the country I grew up in. What is your proposed solution to this powder keg situation where people are worried that if they speak out publicly with their genuine, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, genuinely held, radical, somewhat radical, what people would call radical beliefs, that they will be physically attacked? What's your solution?
Well, this may seem a bit naive, but we need better people. I'm sure you two would never ever take
That's fair.
And shoot someone
Education
that you disagree with. That's true. Yeah.
I wouldn't shoot anybody that I disagree with. I agree. And I don't think you would either, John. I've taken calls from you over the time. You seem like a very level-headed person, if not sort of passionate about what you talk about. Most people I know would not do this. And I think most people who end up committing these sort of heinous acts, a disproportionate amount of them have mental health issues. I don't tend to run to the corner and say he was a this or he was a that. It's, okay, what happened in this person's life that led them to this decision? Oh, wow, they were radicalized by this organization. They were radicalized over here. They had mental health issues. You may have seen the video down in North Carolina of a guy stabbing a woman on a train. What do you find when you get past the finger pointing? Oh, his mother tried to have him committed to a healthcare facility involuntarily multiple times, and there wasn't enough money to do that, and he ends up killing people. So if you get past the finger pointing, if you get past the politics and you look to root causes, I think we can have genuine conversations where we try to come up with solutions where we don't have to say things like, oh, we shouldn't talk about the politics of the dead. Well, people are dying every day. If we followed your rule, we couldn't talk about politics constantly. So I think we should instead talk about the politics and see where we can tweak them to come up with a solution where we don't have to live in fear that a bomb's going to go off when I go to the mall.
No one should have to live. No one should have to live in fear.
Correct.
You're right. I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I think we can both agree that extremist ideology is a problem, right? And I think what one of the things the cross-examiner was trying to get across is that because of the scenario that we are living in right now, our current paradigm is driving more and more people to those extremist views. And that's a problem. And unfortunately, when we have a country, and you're in Canada, so you don't really have this problem, but if you have a country where we have as free access to weapons with people who are extremists and are already hateful and spewing hate and are willing to act violently on that hate, that's a problem that those people are getting those guns. I'm not saying all guns are bad. I own guns, John. I was an avid hunter most of my life. I have a whole collection of guns for hunting. I am not against guns, but I am against hateful extremist people, whether right or left, getting guns when they shouldn't have them.
Yeah, I agree. I have banned on my social media platform over the last 2 days, I have banned and blocked, and my wife will testify to this, at least 100 people, all of them liberals. All of them liberals, not because of hate. I haven't seen too much hate. There was one person who came out, was like, I'm so glad this happened. That guy got banned. Most of it was conspiracy theory bullshit. Oh, this was a false flag stuff. Oh, look at this guy that's standing behind Kirk and he's doing this weird thing and where he's just adjusting his hat. That's a false flag. Like, I have no patience for this anymore. I have no patience for the bullshit, politics, self-affirming confirmation bubble that the social media algorithms have produced in this country, where the instant anything bad happens, we run to our corners, we self-confirm whatever preconceived notions we have by accepting conspiracy bullshit. We've got a gullible generation of people that have been trained by the algorithm to believe any sort of nonsense rather than do the hard fucking work of talking about the politics of this country. The politics of the country is the discussion. It is the lifeblood of the country. It is what our country was founded on. It is what our forefathers did as almost a pastime, right? Let's talk and debate about how to make everybody's lives better. So yes, let's talk about politics, but let's not shoot each other in the process. And I think we all agree on that. But when you come in and you tell us that we must mourn somebody who through their politics wanted to disenfranchise people, take rights away, imply that people were lesser than, cite the Bible that said, hey, gay people, God's perfect law, bringing it back to religion, God's perfect law is that gay people should be stoned to death. When we're advocating that, hey, I'm not saying I do it, but God says you should kill gay people. When they've got people out there making these stances, I think we need to talk about it, both before they die and after they die. I talked about it after Jerry Falwell died. I didn't mourn him, and I found that his politics were repulsive. Jerry Falwell did one great thing, and he filed suit against Hustler when Hustler satirized him with a rude cartoon, and Hustler won. So thank you, Jerry Falwell, for shoring up free speech in America in Falwell versus Hustler. So he did a great thing there, but I'm not gonna not talk about a person's politics because somebody else wants to clutch pearls and say, how dare you? This is not the time. This is the time. It's always the time. That is what we should do as a society. We have short lives. We're here to make our lives better, to make the lives we want. And if we want just people to get out of the way so we can live our lives, I want those people to get out of the way and stop trotting on those people who are less fortunate than I. So yes, let's talk about politics. And no, thank you. I will decline your insistence that I don't talk about politics after somebody dies. Sorry for the rant there, but we've spoken a lot. We should probably let John reply.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, well, first of all, Charlie never said kill anyone. He was only speaking the truth, that men are men, women are women, and men don't believe in women's spaces. And if he wants to quote the Bible, that's completely up to him. But all I'm saying is that
he did advocate violence, John. You got to admit he did advocate violence. Making jokes about people who attack other people is advocating violence.
He didn't deserve what happened. We all agreed that.
That's not what I said.
We agree with that.
That's not what I said. You're absolutely right. Nobody deserves what happened to Charlie Kirk. Nobody does, including Charlie Kirk. What I said was Charlie Kirk did advocate for violence. That's all I said. He thought that LGBTQ people should be killed. He joked about the person who almost, as cross-examiner pointed out, he joked about the person who almost killed Nancy Pelosi's husband as if that person was a hero.
Yeah,
he did advocate for
told
violence.
His followers to bail that person out and call that person a patriot.
That's all I'm saying. I don't think he deserved what happened to him, but he did advocate for violence. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I guess it's a sad day in America where anyone who dies, whether it's Charlie Kirk, conservative, liberal, or whoever, dies or violence is threatened, and people run to their corners and either consider it a victory. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. I think you keep coming back to that point, and we agreed to that in the first 2 minutes of this call. I think we're all on the same page. I just went on like a 5-minute rant condemning people who ran to their corners. I'm telling you, I was blocking people who were conspiracy theorists and celebrating him. Like, we're all on the same page about that. But that is a separate issue from the debate goes on. We can't stop every time somebody is the victim of violence, who is a political figure, for fear of offending somebody by continuing to talk about their politics. Because if not Charlie, who now? Somebody's going to take up his banner. Somebody's going to hold those positions and try to make that the law of the land. There are people actively trying to make this a Christian nation. I don't know if you know the context of hey, God's perfect law is that we should stone gays. He was addressing a fellow Christian, a Christian who called in or submitted a video of a woman who said, God is love. God doesn't want us to harm anybody. And he said, God's perfect law says that, and he cited the scripture, a man who lays with a man should be stoned to death. So his point was we should tell people that truth. And by the way, that law is perfect. I agree. He didn't explicitly say, hey, everybody, go grab stones and kill somebody. He just said, oh, by the way, if you're a Christian and you think God's all about love, you're wrong. He also has a law where we should kill people. And oh, by the way, that law is good. And that is God's love.
Hey,
we have a name for that in this country. In this world, and it's called stochastic terrorism.
I'm going to cut you off for a second because I got a super truth here. We got a super chat from Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, for $10. After Charlie Kirk was assassinated, several HBCU college campuses received death threats because his platform targeted Black people, because it was assumed that the shooter was Black, originally assumed that he was. So that's the chat from the super chat from Kelly King. And my super truth for that is that a blue whale's heart is so large that a human could actually crawl through the arteries. So there you go.
That is great. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for that.
There you go.
Thank you for that super chat. That was Alabama State University, Hampton University, and Virginia State University all had to go on lockdown within hours after the Kirk shooting because people made assumptions. And I condemn that as well. They shouldn't do that. This is what we're talking about, right? Conspiracy theory, not only low information, no information conclusions by people, anti-factual conclusions by people, because it all serves their own self-confirmation bubble of I'm right, everybody else is wrong. If you're wrong, then you hate me and you're a lesser than.
Right.
And that is what we're dealing with talking about the politics of those who support somebody who says, yeah, trans people should be killed by the government. And that law that says you should stone gay people is perfect and it is love. So yeah, I'm going to talk about that because we have people rising up in his name targeting who? Minorities. The tweet I saw from a black woman on Twitter was went right to us, and we don't have shit to do with it. Right on cue. Like it's like right on, it's predictable, and it's very, very sad. What were you saying, John?
Well, you know what that means, though? It means now that Mr. Kirk is dead, that means he's now a martyr, which means the person who did the shooting actually did him a favor.
There absolutely is a view there that, yes, this is another reason number 120th on the list. Reason number one is it's just morally reprehensible. But yes, don't kill politicians because you create a counter movement in their favor. There's very sympathetic. If you're a horrible person, this is a message for you. If you're a horrible person and you're considering political violence of any kind, throwing bricks at somebody or shooting somebody, maybe that reason will sink in. Don't do it, right? You kill a politician and all of a sudden they gain all sorts of fame and sympathy and all sorts of things. And it creates a martyr. I agree with you, John.
John, I hate to say this, but we've been on this call for quite a while. I need to move on. I've got some announcements I got to make. I have other calls. And as always, John, I'm really happy to talk to you. I know we often disagree, but I think you and I always have some really good conversations. So I hope next time I'm here, you call me back again. Okay, John?
Okay.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much, John. And I know I got a little hot under the collar there, but I was vehemently agreeing with most of what you said. Yeah, I just disagree with the part where we have to hold off on the conversation because then we'll always be holding off on the conversation. I
think I was in agreement with a lot of what you were saying as well, John. So I think maybe at some points we were just talking past each other. So I really appreciate you calling, John. And I'll talk to you next time I'm on, okay?
Okay, have a good evening.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, and I hope you have a really good night tonight, John.
Yeah,
I hope you do. And a great day tomorrow. Have a great weekend. Hell, have a good weekend.
Friday, it's great.
Bye-bye.